Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Shefali. I'm so honored to be speaking at this amazing gathering of mothers and parents. If people don't know me, I am a New York Times bestselling author. I'm a clinical psychologist. I help parents and children and families to connect better and to be more bonded. I am also the founder of a conscious parenting and life coaching institute where I help people like you and lay people become conscious parenting and life coaches. So if you're ever interested in exploring becoming a coach with me and learn my techniques, check out my institute. Every week, I have a parenting podcast called Parenting and You, where I work with parents in real time. So, again, it's for free. If you want to learn more techniques and strategies, check out my podcast called Parenting and You. So, I am the pioneer of the conscious parenting movement. And when I wrote my first book in 2010 called The Conscious Parent, this was a new way of parenting. No one was talking about the parents' inner baggage, the parents' conditioning, the parents' childhood. And the main premise of conscious parenting is that we as parents come with all this unconscious baggage that we unknowingly put on our children. We don't realize how it is that we impose on our children all our expectations, all our fantasies, and we just hope and wish and pray and control them to make these hopes, wishes, and fantasies come true. You and I were raised, for the most part, by unconscious parents, parents who puppeteered us and who maneuvered us and manipulated us and scared us, controlled us to become who it is they wanted us to be. And many of us lost ourselves in this process where we so wanted our parents' validation and approval and praise, and we so wanted a sense of belonging that we gave up our own connection to ourselves. We divorced our own authentic selves in order to get the approval and the love from our parents because that was so important to us. And this is what we do to our children. Without realizing, we puppeteer them and we contour them to become who it is we want them to become so that we feel good about ourselves. That's what our parents did for us. That's what we're going to do for our children. But if you are on a journey wanting to become your most authentic self, wanting to be free of the conditioning that your parents imposed on you, then you don't want to do this to your children because you know how hard it is to truly listen to yourself. And you don't want your children to have such a hard time. That is why you are here listening to me right now, to awaken to the awareness that you don't want to raise your children unconsciously. Now, can anyone be perfectly conscious? Absolutely not. We're all going to be relatively unconscious to one degree or the other. But we can hope and we can aspire and we can cultivate and we can work really hard to learn the tools and strategies to become more conscious. So if you want to go on this journey, you can pick up any of my books. I've written The Conscious Parent, Out of Control, The Awakened Family, A Radical Awakening, Superpowered, a book called It's a Mom, and The Parenting Map. So you can pick up any of these books, start listening to my podcast, and begin to be oriented in a new way so that you can parent your children differently. So, conscious parenting, in a nutshell, is all about the parent realizing that their childhood baggage is having a profound influence on how they are raising their children. Most of us think that if something is wrong with our children, we need to fix our children, take them to a therapist, get them tested, put them on a medication. Few of us realize that the way in which we perceive our children, the way in which we interact with them, the way in which we even speak to them or think about them, all of it is not just coming from your child, it's also coming from you. The other day, I had a client come to me and she was grumbling about her very shy and introverted child. And she wanted me to help the child. So I asked, well, what is wrong with the child? And she said, he's shy, he's introverted. So I said again, no, what I mean is, what is wrong with the child? And she said, he's shy, he's introverted. So I realized that this parent was imposing her perceptions on how the child should be and judging the child as bad because, in her mind, in her story, being shy and introverted was not a good thing. When I began to explore her childhood with her, within moments, she began to share with me memories where she was ridiculed and demeaned and shamed for being a shy, introverted, quiet child. Do you see? This is just one small example. I cannot tell you how many examples I have in my therapy and coaching practice in my institute where parents come to me troubled by one of their children's behaviors, and they fully believe that the child is bad, that the child is aggressive, that the child is a loser. And they have little awareness that they are co creating this perception of the child. They are so firmly convinced that the child is devil's spawn. The child is just a bad egg. The child, the child, the child, the child. And this is how we were raised, where parents felt it was their entitlement, their right to point a finger at the child and fix the child. The child is damaged, fix the child. And until conscious parenting, parents were not taking accountability or even having the slightest awareness that their baggage, their life story, their narrative is deeply influencing how they look at their children, especially if their children are difficult. If the child is lovely, they have no problem saying, you know what, it's me. I have a great relationship with my child. But if the child is difficult, they don't want to see that they are co creating that perception. They want to blame the child. Once you blame the child as quote unquote bad, you have to realize that your entire way of being with your child is predicated on your judgment that the child is bad. And until you learn to reframe your child's behavior, you will keep thinking your child is bad. Now, what do we do with a bad child? Obviously, we don't like them so much. Obviously, we get frustrated with them easily. Obviously, we want to punish them, yell at them, scream at them, ground them, shame them. Obviously. But what if I was to tell you that your child may not be bad at all, and that it may actually be your perception, your story, and your co creation of that narrative from your childhood, from your experiences? Sure, the child is difficult, but is the child bad? There's a big difference between a difficult child and a bad child. A difficult child, you can maybe have compassion for. You can teach it strategies and tools. A bad child, you've already condemned. Every parent wants the good child. And many of you sitting here may have been good children. And you know better than me that because you wanted approval and validation and love from your parents, you decided to be good, even when you did not want to be, because you wanted the approval and the validation. And in fact, you never really discovered who it is you are. Anyone in the audience can relate to this? I know I can. So when we as children make contracts with ourselves, I want love and I am willing to pay the price of my authentic self in order to get this love. then we begin to follow these patterns. Some of us make contracts to be the good girl or the good boy. Some of us become the comedians. Some of us become the athletes, the super achievers, the good student, the rebel. Some of us just give up because we're tired of losing. So most of us began to split off from our authentic selves in childhood in order to get the love and approval from our parents. And we do the same thing to our children. Until we as parents begin to realize that our children, they come to us with a very unique signature, a very unique blueprint that I call their essence. It is our job to recognize our children's essence. It is our job to keep our children aligned with who it is they are as much as possible. And it is our job to not snatch them from their essence and mutate them into a puppet of our imagination. Children come to us with the greatest desire to be seen, to be understood, to be valued for who it is they are. The more we force children to be something other than who it is they are, the more dysfunctional they will be in life. Children who are forced to be someone they are not will have a breakdown, a massive, colossal emotional breakdown at some point in their life, mostly in their 20s. Because the pressure to be perfect, the pressure to conform, the pressure to be seen, and the constant rejection, the constant failure on the part of the parent to see the child eventually causes the child to explode. And girls typically get depressed and anxious. They want to harm themselves. And boys become rebellious, or they become addicts or video game addicts, some sort of thing like that, bullies. So boys act out and girls act in. And when this happens, usually in their 20s, we don't want to, again, label this bad. We want to understand that this is a child who is crying out for help. Many of us parents, because we get frustrated and because we so identify with our children's behavior, we often get stuck at the level of behavior. We don't understand that the behavior is just the surface. What's important is the feelings underneath the behavior. Why is my child acting like this? What is my child trying to say to me through his deviant or her anxious behavior? There is a meta message underneath the behavior. And until we parents learn to decode the behavior and understand the need beneath the behavior, we will keep being disconnected from our children, and our children will not feel seen, heard, or validated. And this happened to us because our parents did not decode our behavior and they simply reacted to our behavior. And many times we felt misunderstood, we felt unseen because our parents kept reacting to our behavior. But we knew that we were good people. We were trying to say something, but no one was listening. So it's your job to begin to realize, let me not focus on the behavior, let me understand what's underneath the behavior. The other point I want to make is that children typically are not here to drive you crazy. I know they drive you crazy, but that's not their goal. Children, especially under the ages of 10 or 12, are here to really discover their authentic self. Not every child can be a superstar. Not every child can be a super athlete. In fact, the more you allow your child to be ordinary and to feel good enough in the good enough, they will really be more secure, more confident, and have this quiet, connection to themselves. They won't feel the need to be extra this or extra that because they're comfortable in being ordinary. Average and ordinary is not a bad thing. This idea of super success and climb Mount Everest and go win the Olympic medals is really coming out of ego. If our child is naturally competitive, okay. But most of us are not naturally competitive. I know I'm not so competitive. I don't like to, really be in a competition. Do I like to achieve? Yes, but I don't like to compete. So every person is different. Children typically act out because of one of these three reasons. Number one, their brain has literally not developed. Their brain literally has big holes in them. Their brain is yet undeveloped. And the brain will not be developed till their late 20s. So instead of punishing your children because they forget or because they cannot emotionally regulate themselves because they're screaming like a lunatic every day, understand that their brain has not yet developed the skills to have calm, to be emotionally regulated, to think about the future, to plan, to organize. And children who have ADHD have completely different brains. Their brain literally is unable to plan things in the future and unable to sustain attention for long periods of time. Children with autism and other neurodivergent issues have different brains. So if you are not sensitive to the nature of a child's brain and understand that the brain is wired differently and a boy's brain is wired differently, a girl's brain is wired differently, you will keep getting frustrated with your children. Their brain is not going to develop till their late 20s. So sit back and enjoy the shit show because it is going to be one. And you thinking it's going to be in a neat box, it's going to be a perfect package, is setting yourself up for great disappointment. The second reason that children act out is because they haven't lived long enough. They don't have enough life experience. How can you expect them to live in the future, to plan things when they haven't even understood what that could mean? And the third reason why children act out is because their self esteem is suffering. So, you as a parent have a choice. Are you going to do it unconsciously like your parents did and simply yell and scream and beat and punish? Because all those techniques are really dysfunctional and harmful for our children. Our children need us to be regulated, they need us to be calm, and they need us to do our inner work so we don't project all our expectations and needs and fantasies onto them. So, if you want to be a conscious parent, let's get started today. Make a commitment that you are going to go on a journey to awaken to a new way of being and a new way of parenting. Make a decision. I'm going to learn this thing. I'm going to listen to her podcast. I'm going to read a book, mine or somebody else's. But begin this journey where you learn to become more non judgmental, not a perfectionist, where you learn to recognize your child's essence, and where you stop controlling them by imposing your wishes, your expectations, and your desires onto your children. Your children came to you not just to be parented by you, but also to help you parent yourself. Your children came to you not just to follow you, but also to lead you closer to your heart, to your equanimity, to your joy. There is no one more joyous, more in the present moment than children. I always say that young children under the age of 7, especially, are gurus of living in the present moment. So, your children are not just here for you to teach them, but also for you to learn from them. Let your children awaken you to a new way of living, to a new way of thinking. It is scary to give up this idea of control. But when you realize that you are not here to raise a perfect human being, but you're here to help guide a soul to come into their own destiny, then you will realize that this is a connection. This is a profound relationship. This is not about you being in control from the pedestal of Mount Everest, looking down at your child and creating the perfect child. This is about bonding with your child, connecting with your child, allowing your child to feel safe, seen, and validated, just like you wanted to be seen, validated, and heard in your childhood. Your child is a real human being just like you. Just like you want freedom, just like you want authority over your own destiny, so does your child. You are here to walk beside your child, and eventually, when they grow older, to walk behind them to a destiny that they need to choose, that they need to manifest. And you get to enjoy this journey with them. So, again, thank you so much for having me. I hope you're inspired to learn conscious parenting and you begin to follow my podcast or get one of my books. Again, conscious parenting is one of the best gifts you can give yourself and your children. So, I hope you will take the invitation. Once again, thank you. Such a pleasure to have been with you.
Wow. Okay. I think
That was amazing. So, what do you guys think?
I want to go over to Sylvia. Are you there? I could
I'm
see
here.
things on
Hi.
that box. Can you please tell what did you feel? Yeah.
Yeah, it was very insightful and very beautifully expressed. Of course, she's very articulate in how she speaks about parents being able to see within, see beneath the behavior of the children, and not be blinded by the lens that we kind of see them through, the filter that we see them through with our own like our own desires and unfulfilled, um, wishes. So I think that she's just very like I've followed her work for a very long time. So I was really glad to be able to have her in the session here today. And yeah, I think she's spot on with what she's talking about. It's very relevant in today's parenting to be able to really have some radical self reflection as well as a parent, as a person, and to be honest with ourselves that this is what we grew up with, but that doesn't mean that that is what our children have to grow up with either. So having that breaking the cycle moment.
Yes, that is deep. And I would like to, we have 15 minutes before the other session, and I really want to dig deep into this because I feel like hold on one second, there's some disturbance in the back. Just keep it one second. Sorry about that. Yeah, I feel like, this is a conversation that most don't talk about, especially in a country like ours, where parents are put on pedestal and it's all about respecting elders, which is a very important thing. But then comes other ugly side of it, which is what if they're abusers? And it's not like they want to abuse, but if they were abused and if they come from a generational pattern where it's quite normal. They don't know any better. And as mothers at that point, they turn out to be the first dangerous person in a way because and it's very it doesn't happen overnight. It's just a slow chipping away, and it's hard, and that's why I've seen so many broken adults in my life. And every time when we do have conversation, it goes right back to parents and especially mothers, and that makes us think deeply, and especially with Mompower360, that is one of our focus as well. It's not just about glorifying motherhood, but also talking about mothers who are under pressure, are probably broken, probably who doesn't have the support, and they have taken on a role probably they shouldn't have, and which could be a bit damaging, and for them to kind of realize and self-reflect. And that self-reflection is the key, and that's why I love how Dr. Shefali kind of puts light on this whole topic in such a beautiful way, because nobody is perfect. End of the day, mothers are humans, and humans have their own traumas that they carry. And it's how they deal with it. Some deal with it well, some don't deal with it well. And children being so vulnerable and being so close in within the family, they'll become the first collateral damage. And that's why it is very important that we take our rules very, very seriously. In Spider-Man, there's a line, right? With great power come great responsibility. It's almost
Absolutely.
in that
Absolutely. I would love to add to what you've just said so beautifully, because you did touch upon something that's a very interesting.
You're muted. We cannot hear you. Can you guys hear her, or is it just me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
Yeah, but we cannot hear.
I think Sylvia
No,
has.
can't hear Sylvia.
Yeah.
Yeah, lost her.
Yeah, go ahead, Deepika, until Sylvia comes in.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I saw Mom Power. I will just give a little background. So I saw Mompower 360 in Sari Run. So that's why I was introduced to this program, and I was not having any idea about how it will be. And trust me, yesterday's conference was really, it was really wonderful. And I thought, okay, I should continue this program. So, thank you so much, because I know what kind of hard work goes behind this. And thank you so much for making changes in our life. And coming to the question, I think I feel you are the right person to answer this. And before getting into the question, so I try to be cautious parents as much as I can. But 2 weeks before, I think, as you said, we are under pressure, and I have shouted at my son. And I continued this pattern for 3 to 4 days. Then I ended up, oh, this is not right. And I tried to recollect. This session again made me to feel like I'm on the right track. What I chose cautiously to be a good parent. So this is like a reminder to me. And thank you for that. Now my question is, since like you are a mom of 3 and you cautiously decided this, how do you handle a situation when you are prone to pressure, and then your kids needed your attention?
I've
So
been
is there
there.
yeah, so how did you handle that situation, and any tips for us?
Right. I mean, listen, we've all been there, and nobody's perfect. We all lose our shit, and kids have ways of pushing our buttons, right? But the thing is, we lose it. But what happens after you lose it is what sets the whole rhythm, right? Do we kind of ignore it and act as if we are in a role that we are the mothers and they better listen? Is it that attitude, or are we going to humanize it and be like, okay, I messed up, I'm so sorry, mommy was under a lot of pressure, it was, I didn't sleep for a day, whatever that could be. But more is that doesn't mean it's an excuse, but being authentic and kind of talking to the child, because end of the day, for them, you are everything, right? And when we are losing ourselves, when we are under stress, it's like when we are not gathered, it's hard because they don't get it. They don't get the concept of adult life at all. For them, you are the hero. Actually, how old is your child?
He's 5 years.
So 5 years, you really are like everything. When he looks at you, he's literally looking at a celebrity, because you are the center of the world. So they don't get the other thing. And sometimes they're just so lost in being children. And as Shefali was saying as well, it's not that they mean to, but sometimes, it's just situations. So it's just about you're just being human about it and talking to them. I know they're little, but they'll get it. Even with I have a 4-year-old, and there are days when it's like just so chaotic, and I'm like, right? But later I make it up. I don't let it kind of be. I make sure that I kind of give more of love. And so he gets it that, okay, you're there for them. So it doesn't feel like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me, my mom hates me or anything. So you're on the right track. The fact that you realize that you're not just unleashing it, and you're making an effort to even realize that you need to probably calm down, step back. And that's another thing, right? When you're really about to blow up, the best thing is take a deep breath and walk away. I know it's like everybody, you hear it, but trust me, it works, because when everything gets so heated up, it's so much easier to yell and let out versus just getting out from the situation. Just puts everything in perspective. And other ladies can add in too, because I'm sure everybody has their own ways. So you can, yeah, go ahead. Joyful, I like your name.
Yeah, no, my name is Arun, but then my
Right,
Gmail
right,
ID is
right.
joyful Arun. Like, I try to be
Right.
as
And
joyful
Sudha
as
is not
I
my name, it's
would.
this beautiful lady's name, yeah, that I'm logging in from her computer.
Yeah, so I think what I wanted to add is, although even I see myself shouting at my kid, and then feel guilty, but then I think if we explain them right, my child would come to me and tell me, it's like, Mama, why did you shout at me? And then you kind of have a rationale to it, like, baby, you did wrong here. You should have done it
Right,
this
right,
way.
right.
Then she has that attention. And of course, yes, I mean, we have to apologize for our behavior, and saying sorry is a very important word. Yes, we made mistake, and yes, we have to say sorry.
We need to hear that. The previous generation never did that. Like, if you not men, I mean, maybe some did, but the previous generation, it's more like, if the parents yelled, it's almost the rights, and everybody had to just be. That's what's caused a lot of traumas in a lot of people. And for us, the most important thing is for us to realize and be able to say sorry without the ego, and the ego cannot come into place. And when the children, it's less of the ego. As the kids get older, the ego only grows, because then at that point you really demand that. But we need to just be able to say, okay, I'm sorry, I messed up. So, yeah.
So, I also parents to say,
Hey, we can't hear you. I think the mic is not pointed towards you. Yeah.
I also hear parents even now say, I do this for you, I do that. I do it for you.
Sudha, can you just keep it a little more straight? The microphone is far away.
Quite audible.
not-
Yeah. So,
It's not
I
audible.
feel- okay. Okay. Is it better? Is it better?
Yes, now it's better.
Yeah, Deepika says thumbs up. So I still hear parents telling children, I do this for you, I do that for you. I've done this all day with you yesterday simply because you asked me to, but you're still not thankful. And when I hear that, I do not like it at all, because you are not doing anything for accounting, right? It is not a business deal. And I still hear parents say
the
that.
time.
And it's such a bad way to communicate to your child. What is your child going to comprehend through that? Just imagine. So it's almost like a business deal, isn't it?
I give you this.
I give you this, and you give this back to me. And also, one more thing about anger, Lakshmi and all of you, is that it is a very important emotion for all of us. And whether you're showing it or whether you choose to walk away from it, it's a very important emotion. We need to process it. Because when you're angry, you're actually getting a message. Either it is, I'm irritated with you, I'm feeling disrespected, even if it's your own child. Most of the time, angry with your children because you feel like they are disrespecting you. So you walk away, and that's a very good thing, because anger can do a lot of damage. So instead, you need to process it as well. Don't forget to do that. Walk away and think about it and try to understand how to deal with it. Come back to your child and tell your child, you know what? I was not happy with that. I was very angry because I felt disrespected. Because you've got to close that off as well. Because if you walk away with anger, you could repress it,
Right.
and it could come out in another form. So understand anger is very important because it's giving you a message. Why are you angry? I feel hurt. I feel disrespected. My ego is hurt. Now, when you know why you're angry, you're going to be able to close the loop of the anger. And that is something that I picked up from a very wise person. So it is okay to walk away, but process it and close it. Yes.
That's such a beautiful point. point. See, when we get our brains together, it's like we get all these points, and the fact that it's all live and it's real, it's even better. Yes, like processing is such an important thing, and also to figure out where the anger is coming from, because sometimes it's not about the little thing, it's what's underneath. Something from the past, and it's just the little child inside you that comes out. And so at that point, it's like the child and the little child that of mother that's coming out. Yeah.
This is very important because I've gone through this as a mother. Many others are the reason for our anger, right? When you
Sudha, your voice is not clear.
Voice is not
It's
clear.
I think you
how
need to
about
be,
how about it now? I didn't know.
you need to be closer to the
I need to be,
microphone.
I think it's the position. I think it's the position. Okay. So as a mother, when I'm very relaxed and wise about how I'm taking care of my child, the other noises can sometimes capture my calmness, right? Why are you not doing this with her? You should do this with her. It could be a close friend. It could be your mother. It could be a school teacher. But the thing is, you know your child, right? You know the pulse of your child. And many times we react and respond with anger because of the other voices in our head. So it's also important to distinguish, is this important for me, or is it important for the society, or is it important for the culture of the school that my child is going to? It's very important, because when you decide this is not important for me, my child does not have to be that way, it doesn't matter even if the school of your child is asking you to push the child, you will not push the child. And that is very healthy. And that is real caregiving, not caring for what the school thinks or what your fellow mom or family thinks, but what do you think is best for your child and yourself. So remember the other voices and distinguish.
I love that. I love that. I love that. That's such a fabulous point. Because sometimes more than a role, I think moms fall into this trap of trying to be that perfect mom and get that approval and mold our child as a reflection of our identity. But that should never be the case. You should allow children just to form their own identity and keep our identity to ourselves, which is not like so interlinked that we lose ourselves in the process, and worse, hold them accountable as we get older to be like, I did this and that. And that's what Sudha was talking about, where kids owes nothing and we need to allow them to grow and just nurture them.
Mompower360, an empowering community for moms just like you and me.